Welcome back for another installment of Fellowship of the Rink. It's weird. We're back in the saddle. There's not a whole lot to talk about here, but we do have Joe Smith of The Athletic back, also waiting for more Minnesota Wild news, just like all of you. We were promised Christmas in July. We thought we'd have Kaprizov and Rossi wrapped up by now. And what's the biggest news, Joe? We got Jack Johnson on a PTO.
The big blue line sign, and everyone's waiting to hear about. Yeah, obviously he's a household name. People know who he is, right, from his times and handful of teams, including Colorado, obviously Columbus days. Seems to have been slowing down the last couple of years, at least the numbers wise, or the analytics would tell you that. But it is an interesting dynamic here because of the Jonas Brodin injury, and expected to miss the first a little part of the season. I don't think it'll be anything more than like a week or two. So not a long-term thing, but they still have on their left side, right now you have Middleton and Buium basically, right? Without Brodin there. So Declan Chisholm was traded. John Merrill has not been re-signed as of yet. So this provides some depth on the left side. An NHL veteran player, cup winner, a guy who could maybe for a small period, assuming he makes the team, fill in there until Rodin's back, or provide insurance in case, let's say, Carson Lambos is not ready, or they don't feel comfortable with him, or maybe it's better to have a guy like him in a seventh role, a 7D role, versus having Carson Lambos in a 7D role, or a Juracek, or whomever. So I think it would not shock me if he somehow, makes the team out of camp. Not a disservice to anybody else as far as like Lambos is concerned, but we'll see how he does in preseason. But this provides some insurance there on a pretty cheap scenario. I mean, they haven't signed him yet, but like on the PTO, so let's see how he does, and then go from there. But yeah, that's you always kind of wondered, like, maybe they have gotten John Merrill on a short-term deal, could have gotten him back on a 1 year at 800 or whatever like that if he's not been signed yet. That's a question to me, like, oh, you have a guy who's familiar with the team, blah, blah, blah. If you want a guy for that situation, maybe re-sign him. I don't think he's been signed yet as of this recording. But yeah, Jack Johnson, PTO, will be someone to watch in camp. And, you have a lot of young guys there on the left side. Even though we know Zeev will all but certainly have a spot on the blue line there, depending on where he starts. But having a guy like that who most likely isn't having a problem being in a reserve role or 7 role helps versus bearing a young kid who's still dreaming of playing in the NHL in that situation. So we'll see.
Yeah, you hit on the two biggest concerns from the fans. One, people, this is not an indictment on Zeev Buium. Jack Johnson will not be the reason that Zeev Buium doesn't get into the lineup, but also the John Merrill factor, right? Because a lot of people are wondering, like, okay, why are you going to bring in Jack Johnson when you could just keep a familiar face like John Merrill? Is it due in a lot of part, do you think, to the uncertainty around the extent of Brodin's injury? And they're like, well, we don't know if we're going to need either of these guys. So let's get someone in on a PTO that we can kind of evaluate and just see what happens, because the reality is Merrill's not going to sign a PTO with the team that he was just with, right?
Yeah. And again, like if you have to, they already still have Zach Bogosian in contract, right? And so you're talking about kind of, not say varying, but having a guy of his stature be a potential 7D role if you have the different lineup the way it could potentially look, especially if you want to get Juracek some playing time or whichever. So when Jonas Brodin is healthy, it's hard to. Those guys probably want to have like a one way kind of guaranteed. I mean, even if it's $800,000-$900,000, it's still something. But I still thought maybe a guy like that was a chance that you could do that. Not say a PTO, but I mean, who knows? I mean, he doesn't have a contract yet, right? Like, you get down towards the end, you have guys who are looking for a spot in the camp to get a place at. And I know Bill Guerin doesn't usually do a lot of PTOs. I think he's of the belief that he doesn't want to waste anybody's time, or like, you have the guys you run with and, don't want to lead these guys to, believe they have a spot, and then no spots really there available. But in this particular case, I think there is a spot available, at least for the short-term basis. And I thought they were going to sign another defenseman, but I didn't think it would be a PTO. But this could just be the PTO that leads to a short 1-year signing. And then they hope, obviously, that Brodin is back. But we all know how it went last year with injuries on the blue line. So, it won't just be Brodin out the first week or so. Could be injuries the course of the season. It'll be good to have somebody that can plug in there if nobody else is kind of for sure NHL ready at the AHL level. I mean, Lambos, I think, is that guy. But that's where I'm at with it.
No, that's fair. And this morning, or I guess yesterday, as you guys listened to this with our Wednesday drops, Mike Russo dropped the initial 44 that have been invited to Team USA's Olympic camp, I guess, Joe. And a lot of the names that you'd expect to see here from the Four Nations roster, some names that were snubbed but showed up and competed really well for the Worlds, and some cool ones from the Gophers that you see pop in, like a Jackson Lacombe, Logan Cooley, Matty Nyes. The one thing that I know Wild fans are going to point at here, Joe, we got Matt Boldy on there. We got Brock Faber on there, guys that we very much expect to be in the mix for the actual Olympic roster. No Zeev Buium to be found on this list. Now, is this something that's like done in final, or is there a world where he works his way back into discussion, say things go well this season?
Well, I mean, and first of all, I don't think it's necessarily like a snub in that case. Think of the guys like Lacombe, Nyes, like those guys have had legit NHL careers so far. And I think it's what's important for Zeev right now is some workouts and getting ready to start his first NHL season. I think that's a focus that he wants, focus that Bill Guerin wants. Zeev Buium will be an Olympian at some point. He's got gold medals up the wazoo right now in his career, and it's only a matter of time for him to be part of that. Look at the blue line they already have on the Team USA roster coming back with some hard decisions to make on the last probably couple slots there. So I do. I mean, like if somebody sets the world on fire in the first 4 months of the season, and like this is the only names that were set in stone were like at the first 6, right, that they picked the Olympic team. Those are the only ones that are just like, okay, these are the ones that are set in stone. But like, I think if somebody, whoever it might be, has a season when you can't turn away from to be more considered, I think they'll have a chance to consider them. But I think the fact that, Zeev not being on this list shouldn't be the end all be all. Like, I think, his focus is the NHL season and being a regular on the blue line for the Wild and being a really impact player, which I think he will be. His time, has come at the USA level and will come eventually. Wouldn't it be cool to have him in favor as a pair partner? Like, but yeah, I think that that's a pretty stout 44 player list, I think, to choose from. So it shows the depth of the Team USA hockey, which we had a couple of former Olympic gold medalists for Team USA on last week's podcast talking about the health of Team USA hockey is at all-time best, probably.
Yeah, and half joking, but also half not joking. A little surprised to see the Brock Nelson name show up on the list of 44 after choosing to sign with Colorado.
Well, I don't think anybody's holding that against him for that particular, right? He did have experience, obviously, with Team USA at Four Nations, and can play a valuable role. I know he had a down playoff there, run after the deadline with Colorado, but I think he's one of those guys that you're going to definitely consider. Veteran center who can win faceoffs and do all that. So, but yes, I think from like the snarky point of view, I think seeing him sign obviously somewhere else would disappoint. But I don't think Bill Guerin's to the point where he's going to start making some changes, or else you're gonna lose a lot of people if you start saying people who won't sign with certain places. Yeah,
this is fair. No, we don't have to beat this to death because we've talked about it so many different ways up to this point. I just want to know more broadly from you, both on Kirill Kaprizov and Marco Rossi, as we look at training camp as a big date to hit for getting either of them signed and not having to worry about contract negotiations anymore. And Marco, it's obviously getting him on the ice this year. Kaprizov, we technically have more wiggle room, but we all know the concerns that we've talked about forever about, letting him get into the season without the extension. What's the concern meter for each of them being signed before the season starts?
I don't think there's necessarily a huge concern yet. I think until Kirill and his representative Paul Theophanos meet face to face with Bill Guerin in Minnesota or stateside, whether it's later this month or early September, I'm not sure. Until that meeting goes well or doesn't go well, I wouldn't necessarily worry. I think the money is going to be there for Kirill. I think the Wild have a very formidable offer that they'll put in place, and with this can measure it with a player of his caliber and importance to the organization. So those be a matter of if what he's getting across will jive with Kirill Kaprizov, and if all he's ever said to us or said publicly and said he's happy and he loves it here and that he wants to stay. So the biggest way to show that would be to sign. So yeah, I wouldn't be overly concerned until we get to it's training camp starting and he's already met with the team and they're still a hem and haw, and I think that if he doesn't sign, it'll be more that not less about the money more than he wants to try some other place. But I don't think we're at that point yet, and I don't think there's a chance. I don't think there's reason to really worry about it until they have that conversation and that back and forth and get to see what Kirill's head's at. As for Marco Rossi, I think that both sides, I'd say, have dug in, but I don't think there's been a lot of movement this summer with it. I think if he had arb rights of some kind, it would have forced a little bit more of a decision making to happen earlier. As of right now, I think the Wild can wait a bit, and as of right now, I think Rossi can wait a bit. But you want to have that player on the ice for training camp, start of the season. It does need a visa, so and a contract to play, obviously, in the States. So you don't want somebody to be missing a week because they wait so long and then it's training camp starts and you miss the first week of preseason because of it. But I think eventually both sides will have to come together, whether that's in early September or closer towards training camp, and get something done. And it seems as though at this point there hasn't been, tremendous trade offers to this point, which I think if there was, then there might have been something done. But so I think the more likely resolution here, at least in my perspective, is that they sign something, whether it's a shorter term 2-year deal, to push it down the driveway a bit and see where they can get. Because I think the Wild do need Marco in a sense. Yurov is a tremendous talent. He's still unproven. You don't know what he's going to do at this next level. I think he'll do a lot of great things, but Joel Arsenault is their number one center right now. But he does need help and has needed help, even with Rossi on the roster, is what Bill Guerin said at the end of last season. And so they haven't really added any centers other than Sturm, and they lost Gaudreau. So they haven't really upgraded that position too much. So I think you need Marco Rossi at this particular point. And I think Marco Rossi obviously needs a place to play. And so I think it behooves both sides to get something done. And whether you trade him down the line or he shows that he's the guy who's part of a long-term future here, then it's a win-win.
Very fair. Less pressing, but since we're talking about contracts, where do you feel the Wild are at regarding a Filip Gustavsson contract? Is this something they feel they need to get done quicker so that he doesn't go out and continue to earn more money, or are they still kind of waiting to see how things settle out with him and Wallstedt sharing the net this year?
I think they're going to have some talks starting in probably in training camp or before the season. I think they will at least start that conversation if they haven't already. So that will be interesting to see if it comes to fruition where they actually come to agreement on it. But there is, I think, interest in Filip Gustavsson, and Gustavsson has been a great fit. He bounced back after a rough season the year before to have a tremendous year last year and really showed he could be a number one caliber goalie. That's 2 of the 3 years he's been in Minnesota that he's been, a backbone for the team. So that has to be really encouraging. If you're the Wild and you let it go another year and he has another great year, which is good for your team, but all of a sudden the caps keeps on going up, and you saw the contracts that have been signed the last couple of years in terms of goal. I think like 5 goalies signed last year. It was kind of like they saw each other going and they added up to it. So the price tag only go higher for a guy like that if he has the season that they hope he does have. So my expectation is that there'll be some talks, coming, potentially in training camp, and then when Filip is in town and stuff like that. I know Mike Russo, my colleague, will probably end up talking to Filip in the NHL media tour for the Olympics. So it'll be in Milan coming up. So maybe we'll hear more from him regarding that. But yeah, I would think, I'm not guaranteeing there'll be something done or signed, but I think there'll at least be some talks between both camps coming up probably the next month or so.
And with the information at hand now, this is very speculative and prediction oriented, but you're putting your money on it. Who's the Wild starting goalie 2 years from now? Is it Gustavsson, Wallstedt, or loosely labeled Field?
I think it's Filip
Gustavsson, and I think Wallstedt's still here. I think I'm not saying like you're giving up on a Wallstedt yet. I think we need to see what he can do at the NHL level. But I think if there is a chance that they commit to Filip Gustavsson, he has 1 year left on his contract, and so if they sign him to any kind of contract 2 years from now, he'll be on this roster, and most likely he'll be a starter. Or if Wallstedt's in some amazing run, a 1A and 1B, that a lot of teams have had those really good tandems. The Islanders have done it for a while too, but my I don't know for sure, and we'll see what happens this year and how the talks go and if things can work out. But I do think I would guess that Gustavsson would be a guy in net, with my also caveat that I think Wallstedt's still here and does have a really good chance to be a good number 1 goalie as well. So and
we'll find out in a month and a half if I'm
wrong. So
no, I think that's the dream scenario, though. Some version of 1A, 1B between the two of them would be very, very good to have worked out. I agree.
Vasilevsky played behind Bishop for a few years before he ascended to become one of the best goalies of all time. So, I don't think
if I'm saying that
Gustavsson will be the starter in 2 years means that Wallstedt's not going to be here or that he won't be the guy at some point. But at some point you can't afford both of them. So I think it'll just let it play out in the ice and see what happens.
Yeah, and there's extenuating circumstances too. But I mean, look at Phil Gustafsson as the perfect case study. Goalies don't pop right away in the NHL very often. It's usually like mid-20s that you kind of start to see them ascend and really get their feel.
Yeah.
Like, not a bad situation to have him for now and slowly pass that torch to Wallstedt as he comfortably develops instead of just thrusting him in to be the number 1 goalie. Like it is the best scenario if they can come to terms on getting Gustafsson extended for sure. Got another guy coming up here on the other side that is, I guess, knows a lot about being a good goalie in Minnesota. I am curious from your perspective, because it's probably a little bit different that you were outside the market when he was here. How do you view Devan Dubnyk ranking among all-time Wild goalies? There's been plenty of notable names in the past. I'm curious from the outsider perspective, like, what did you think of him in his time here, and where do you loosely rank him?
I mean,
it's a tough one. I mean, you have to put him in the top
3, right?
In our top 2. I mean, Backstrom.
I got him top 2.
Yeah, Backstrom has the most games played, games started, wins, and 194. Dubnyk has 177. Fernandez is 113 wins. Phil Gustafsson and Fleury are right behind him. But also you look at just that run that Doobie had, right? Wins the Masterton Trophy, Vezina Trophy finalists, which is a very rare thing for
in these parts
to have. And they won a playoff series. They won the last playoff series. It was with Devan in net. So I mean, I think as of now, at least on the Mount Rushmore of goalies, I mean, I think he's in the top 2, him and Backstrom, particularly at this particular point. And I think guy like Gustafsson can go and ascend up there. it's amazing. You think about like Fleury only being here only a few years, and he's like 5th in wins or something like that in franchise history or something like that. I think it's
yeah, he's 5th in wins.
And as far as being impactful on the culture of an organization, or if he has an impact on the growth of Gustavsson, he'll be one of the more impactful guys that they've had around here. But yeah, I think Doobie in the top 2, and like I wasn't around here at that time, or as long as Mike Russo might have a different answer, so he can solve the debate. But yeah, I think for that impactful run that he had, and it was really special, right, to see 39 straight starts and win a playoff series, and him to resurrect his career from where it was. He'll probably always hold a special place in Wild fans' hearts for that.
That is for sure. Well, let's not waste any more time. Let's kick it over for Devan Dubnyk. This interview is brought to you by our friends at Waggle Golf. Waggle Golf believes what you wear on the course should reflect your individuality, who you are, where you're from, your hobbies, interests, and passions. All the stuff that makes you, well, you. That's why every design is inspired by the desire to create a piece of apparel that strikes a chord when you see it. That makes you say, wow, that was made for me. Because in a lot of ways, it was. Ready to get your waggle on? Go to getyourwaggleon.com, throw in promo code SP10 at checkout to take 10% off your entire order.
Joining the show today is one of us, dating back to 2015 when the Minnesota Wild acquired not only the goalie who ultimately turned the season around, but one of the best goalies in the league. He's one of the best in franchise history. Devan Dubnyk, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, thanks for joining us, man. First question that we like to ask all the guests here on the show: when you first looked at the Minnesota Wild logo, when it first hit the scene, what did you see?
Oh, that's a great question. It's such a cool logo. Like I see like a bear type deal, but the best part of it is when you start to see the trees and the river and the star and how it all kind of goes in with it. It's a very detailed logo that there's so much to it that I think, and then also the whole thing you get asked, so what is it? And I think the point of it is that nobody's really supposed to know what it is, which is kind of cool too.
It's like the Wild mascot, like Nordy, like what should be like the mascot of the Wild, right? So yeah. The podcast is Fellowship of the Rink. It's a stick tap to our Lord of the Rings kind of fandom a little bit. I don't know if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, or do you have kind of a nerd itch that you like to scratch sometimes, like a collectible movie series, a book series, or something like that?
Yeah, I watched Lord of the Rings. I love Lord of the Rings. I was never like huge into it, but I've watched all 3 of them multiple times. So I love it. I think my oldest is just about old enough to get into it, and I'll rewatch those with them. So they're pretty awesome.
What's your favorite one of the 3?
I think I gotta go. I mean, one's good, a little slow to get into it, but I mean the battle is. I think the 2 towers is tough to beat.
Battle of Helm's Deep. Yeah. I'm not even a big Joe's way more of a Lord of the Rings guy than me, but like that battle is my favorite part of the series.
Yeah, it's pretty tough to beat.
Do you nerd out on goalie equipment at all, or are you like these Quebec guys who are only traditionnel?
That was pretty good, actually. No, I love goalie equipment. I definitely nerd out on it. My kids are 2. My oldest 2 are goalies now, and whenever I take them in there, if we're ever in a store, I like to find random reasons to go to Pure Hockey or to Bauer just to look at stuff. And same with if I'm over at Staubers, I could spend hours in there just looking at the different equipment, colors, technology, all the different modifications. Now it's kind of crazy how much they can do and how much is available to people. That was not the case when I was growing up at all. There was like a couple sets of pads and there wasn't a whole bunch of technology involved in them. And now it's just crazy how personalized you can make them both with colors, the availability to order custom stuff. not just the colors, but the strapping and the stiffness and just the brakes and the gloves. It's all available to everybody. It's pretty cool.
And the masks are so unique, right? The mask designs, like they become so detailed. Like, I don't know, the beginning, it's just the logo of a team, right, on the side of your helmet, and then now there's all these crazy, like Vasilevsky had like a big tiger on it, and the different, like a lightning bolt. So
yeah,
I'm sure you have fun with that.
Yeah, it was a blast. And the guy that I worked with towards the end of my career, probably the last 4 years in Mini, Freddie Drummond, he's out of Philadelphia, and he's just an incredible artist. And it was fun to work with. I like to have a lot of say in it, kind of what I wanted to go on there, but I kind of tell him what I wanted and then let him do the creative design part of it, because that wasn't really something that I specialized at by any means. But it was fun to work with him and come up with stuff. And then he would draw the kids on the back, and his as an artist was just incredible. Like, it was the portraits he'd draw, he'd hand draw them. And his work is great. There's so many great painters out there too. And it's just kind of a unique thing. I'm surprised it hasn't trickled into baseball. Obviously it's a rule, but I was just thinking, like, for the catchers in baseball, I mean, they're basically wearing goalie helmets anyway. I wonder if or when it'll change and they start letting those guys get a little creative with their masks.
They're too tough to send in.
You mentioned your three boys play goal. Is that cool? Is that make it harder because you the position so well? You critique it more, or like you kind of get a kick out of the fact, like, hey, my boys kind of want to follow my footsteps a little bit here.
Yeah, combination of all of that. My 9-year-old is just starting this year, so this will be the first time with him doing it. And then my oldest, who's turning 12, last year was his first year. So last year was the first year that I really got a full season of seeing what it was about and seeing what it was going to be like. And there's definitely some learning curves with both of us trying to kind of separate dad and coach when we're on the ice. And at the start, I had a conversation with him about that. I'm like, listen, when we're on the ice, I'm your coach. Don't be asking me about Starbucks after, or like in the middle of drills. Don't come talk to me. He just come up to me and like I'm trying to teach him something, and he'd come, like, I thought he was going to ask me a question. He just asked me about what we were doing in like an hour or something. Like, dude, just like focus for me, please. But it's good. It's been a lot of fun to watch him grow, and he's got better fast. Man, it shaves a lot of years off your life, though. It is very stressful as a goalie parent to have to watch your kid and not be in control of it. I get more nervous for his scored games than I did for a lot of my own games, and it's just getting used to it. It got better towards the end, but having to sit there and just watch him, and with goalie being just a purely reactive position, you can't control what happens in front of you. That it's very hard to just sit there and relax. But it got a little better as it went on, and he's improved. So it's been fun. They're going to be two completely separate projects. They're the opposite. My oldest is very, very structured and very technical, and I got to work with him a little bit to break out of that sometimes and kind of be a street hockey goalie. And then my younger one is like nothing technical. It's very hard to get him to do goalie drills and pushes and stops, but then you stick him in a game and he stops everything. So if I could combine the two of them, it'd be perfect. But it's going to be interesting, and then obviously very, very different personalities, so they're going to keep me on my toes.
That give you some practice for your new goalie consulting business? I mean, I don't know. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, how that got started, and kind of what's your age levels, and are you helping like current goalies or more youth guys, or like what's this business all about?
Yeah, I'm super excited about it. It's called Dubnyk Development. So I got the hat on today. So I started it. I've been thinking about it for a couple of years, and I finally decided to get it going. It came the last 6 years of my career. I worked with a guy named Lyle Mass. He's actually out of Vernon, British Columbia, and did a similar type thing. It was a lot of video review, remote video, going over games. Obviously, there's ice in the summer and that stuff, but it was a lot of remote consulting and reviewing video. And so I wanted to, I didn't want to start goalie camps. I wanted to do something more personal with players and kind of a growth and mentorship program. So as it started to come together, and I know the video works. So I was thinking about age-wise, I'm kind of looking for peewees and older, just because I'm happy to work with younger kids and I know I can help them. But just the concepts, to be able to teach them, as well as being able to do the video review, to sit down, to have them watch it, to have them apply it from video onto the ice, and be able to kind of do the stuff when I'm not with them every time, because I'm not, it's a mentorship program. I'm not going to be on the ice with them every single day, but it's kind of an all-encompassing approach of it's full communication throughout the entire season, the off season, navigating the things that come with being a goalie, being a good teammate in the dressing room, being a good teammate on the ice, learning how to get the most you can out of practice, kind of walking kids all the way through this. And that's Pee-wee all the way through professional. Again, I did this at 30 years old through the end of my career. So there's not really a cap on the ages. And I've most of the people that have reached out have kind of been in the younger ages, but I'm starting to get some older kids, some high school kids, and some junior kids. So there's limited spots. I've only taken 8 to 10 clients right now, just being the first year. Everything that I'm doing is just me. And that's the whole point of the mentorship program, is to be just with me and have that communication. And again, just everything that comes, all the pressures that come with being a goalie, being able to help the parents with it as well. Like I said, I got my first taste on being a goalie parent, and being able to talk with them and walk them through and help their kid do what they're doing as well. So I'm trying to figure out a way to get it out there more. This is all new to me, so the marketing side of it is difficult. But again, I'm just looking for 8 to 10 kids, so that I can give them kind of all my time.
Is there a website they can go to apply for this, or is there a way to reach out?
Yeah, it's dubnykdevelopment.com. Everything is on the website. You can apply on the website and reach out, and then I'll everybody that reaches out, I'll have a phone call with them, set aside 45 minutes to an hour, and get on the phone and explain the whole program, walk them through what it is that I'm going to be teaching them, why it's different, and all those kind of things. So I think there's, that was another side of it too, with my career and the adversity that I dealt with. I kind of tell people, I've seen just about every single up and down that you can imagine in a career, from being a first round pick to the starting goalie to a third goalie in the American League, back to be nominated for the Vezina the next year. Everybody in Minnesota knows the story, but I've been able to navigate all these ups and downs, and if I can pass that on and be able to help other goalies at a younger age learn how to navigate this stuff and learn how to deal with it and get through it. That was a big part of the program as well, is not just the on-ice stuff, but helping with the off-ice stuff as well.
And you definitely have an inspiring story. Like, everybody who covers hockey or around it knows development isn't always a straight line, right? You don't always go from the draft to being top goalie in the league. It's a lot of ups and downs. And, when you came to Minnesota, it seemed like it was a turning point in your career, maybe in your life particularly. Just where were you at that particular time? I know, like, mentally, or just where your confidence was as a goalie. I think you were in the minors there. Like, I think the Staybridge Suites. You were in Hamilton, Ontario for a little bit. I don't know if you're allowed to say that word anymore. If it's cease and desist order still apply.
Yeah, I know. I think I did get a cease and desist from the city of Hamilton after that. It was that was funny. I remember Aaron Sickman coming up to me. We were right in the middle of the run in 2015, and we were in Calgary, and he said something that somebody had reached out to him from Hamilton and wanted an apology or something, because I said something about staying at the
low point was Staybridge
Suites and wondering if I could go to Tim Hortons in the morning. I had to check my window to see if the biker gangs were at Tim Hortons, if I could get over there or not. And they didn't like that very much. They wanted an apology, and I was like, I'm not going to apologize. That's what it was. I didn't say anything. I just said what it was, and that was tough. I mean, our oldest, Nate, was just born, so he would have been at this time, I guess 10 months or so old, and I hadn't seen them for weeks on weeks at this point, and I'm in Hamilton. I was a starting goalie in the NHL at the start of the year. Now I'm in the Staybridge Suites in Hamilton in a 3 goalie rotation, and just begging for the year to end. So I got in the summer and just tried to hit the reset button. I honestly didn't even think too much about it. It was so bad and so off a cliff that I didn't even want to start to dig into kind of what happened. I just wanted to hit the reset. I didn't forget how to stop the puck. There was no point in diving into everything that went wrong that year. I just wanted to kind of reset, get back on the ice, get stopping pucks again. And, Arizona came up, and it was kind of the perfect fit for everything that I'd gone through the year before. It's a non-hockey market. Obviously there's zero pressure there outside of wanting to compete and for your teammates and win, obviously in the room. There's no outside pressure there. So it was that kind of release that pressure valve, and then going there with people that I was familiar with Sean Burke, Dave Tippett. They'd seen me play my whole career. So I didn't feel like I had to go and prove anything really, other than obviously get back to stopping pucks, but they'd seen me play enough. They knew who I was. They knew me as a person. So that kind of all those other things, those outside noises were gone, and I was able to just go back and play and I got my game back, started building it up, and everything started to kind of feel like bonus time. Going in there, I kept very low expectations on how many games I was going to play. I was with Mike Smith, who was a workhorse, and he was playing normally 65 plus a year. So I didn't know if I was going to get 15, 20, 25 games. And I just wanted to enjoy it and get back to being an NHL goalie and be grateful and appreciative of everything that comes with that, and just enjoy every time I got on the ice. And then, that was great, and that started well. And then I started to play more, and I play a couple in a row, and then I played 3 in a row, and then it was 4 in a row. And then I started to get the itch again. And I was like, well, maybe I don't just want to be an NHL goalie, an NHL backup. I want to play again. I was getting the itch, and shortly after that the trade happened to Minnesota, and it was kind of that perfect storm, because I was playing on bonus time for me, and I was still just trying to enjoy every 60 minutes that I got, and everything that I got from there on out was more than I expected at the start of the year. So I was just thinking, this is a great opportunity in front of a great hockey team that was struggling badly, but was a really good hockey team. So not only that, it was an opportunity to go play for a really good team. It's not getting traded and getting thrown in the net and playing every game for a team that's not good. They're a very good team that was just having a really tough time. So that was another part of the perfect storm, that it was a great team. And then I was not thinking about how steep of a hill it was to climb to get to playoffs. It was just game to game, and it was a bonus. And then, that just kind of snowballed, and it became 4 games in a row, and then 8, and then 15. And then from there, it was like every game mattered so much that we knew I wasn't coming out of there at that point, and we kind of rolled all the way through.
Bonus time, 39 straight games. That's a lot of
bonus time.
That's a lot of bonus time. Like what's that like as a goal? And we all talk about like scorers who get in the zone, just feel good about themselves. But when you're a goal and you're starting all the time and you're probably playing some of the best hockey of your career, like what's that like? Like what's the confidence level? Like how does it affect how you play?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, in that part of the season too, because of where we were in the season, you're playing it basically every other day, and plus back to back. So it was just, we just got into this routine. And also another part of that perfect storm was that we had 3 goalies there. So Backstrom and Kemper were there. I didn't have to practice on non-game days. I didn't have to go on the ice and do 200 butterflies and get hit by a bunch of pucks and even just have that mental wear and tear, because it is when you're playing that much in that part of the season, the dog days there, when you're grinding, like to go on in between and get hit by pucks and see pucks flying at you and go down and get up and just have that wear and tear in your body. I didn't need to do that, because even if there was a full practice, I didn't have to go on the ice. Normally, if you have 2 goalies, if there's any sort of a resemblance of practice, even half the guys go out, like you have to go out there, because otherwise they can't. It's very hard to run a practice half ice if you have too many guys. So in this case, I never had to go on. So I would play. Next day, I'd go to the rink. I'd do all my maintenance stuff, stretching, get work done, all this stuff, but I wouldn't go on the ice. And then the next morning, pregame skate, play the game, same thing the next day, and it just kind of rotated, and it was just, and I never really saw anything other than game shots. And so I just had this confidence going into these games, and I mean, it was the first time in my career that I knew what it was like to expect to win. Starting in Edmonton as a rookie, and we were not a very good team, and so it was, I kind of started my career in like survival mode, where you're just entering every game, you're just like hoping not to get blown up, and like you're hoping to end the game with good stats, with no real, you could win the game, and there's a chance you could win the game, but you don't expect to win the game. And all of a sudden it was like getting there too. You learn these things like winning's hard in the NHL, and getting a chance. I tried to look at it like every single start I had, I'm like, there's a chance to get a win in the NHL. And I get to go play a game and get a win behind a great hockey team that we have a good chance to win. And then you get this thing where every game you go in, you're expecting to win. And you think, like, I get to play this game, we're going to win this game. And it was this like crazy mindset shift. I'm like, this is way more fun than going in there and just trying to scrape out a 900 save percentage. This is a whole lot more fun just going in and just winning a hockey game. And then that kind of changes your mindset too, of like, you don't really think about anything other than winning the hockey game, whether that's like 5-4 or 1-0. You're playing the game throughout, and you're just taking it kind of shot at a time and not really thinking about anything other than the situations in the game. And it kind of just unlocked something in me that I was able to roll with.
What was more gratifying, the Vezina nomination or the Masterton?
Oh, that's a tough call. I mean, gosh, probably the Masterton, really. I think the Vezina would have meant more if it was, I thought I missed out on my 40-win season. I thought that probably would have been more gratifying a Vezina nomination than the one that I got that year, because the Masterton was just such a good way to wrap up everything that had gone on. And there's obviously, I'll never be able to there's not enough time for me to walk through every single day of like how much went on, and how bad it was, how crappy it was, being away from the family in Hamilton, all this stuff. And so just the whole essentially 365 days to go from a 3-goalie rotation to standing at the NHL awards, winning an award, that award kind of encompassed that whole journey. So that was definitely felt good to get that one. And like I said, the Vezina would have been nice a few years past, but we don't need to get into that.
Well, I want to quickly just talk about, or get you to talk about, Sean Burke, because I know you mentioned the Tippetts there, and I actually know the Tippett family well. I used to know and work with Dave's brother, Brad Tippett, rest his soul. And I met Dave a few times, and just amazing people, amazing hockey minds. But Sean Burke is a special human, and a lot of defensemen and offensive players kind of are talking now about like the hockey whisperer in Adam Oates, who, and I've heard this from one of his trainers, almost got Crosby to change his curve. And if you're going to get Crosby to change anything, I mean, that is a hockey whisperer. And I've heard on the goaltender side, like, that is Sean Burke. So you mentioned his name a little bit ago. What did he do to help you? And what makes him so special? And I'm sure you've talked to like other goaltenders, I don't know, like Smith, because you played with, I don't know, Briz, or some of the other top goaltenders in the world and in the league who've worked with him, and him being able to get the best out of them. So like, tell us about him and just what makes him so special.
Yeah, combination of things with Berkey, and like you mentioned, Tippett was fantastic as well. And first off, for me, like I was a little old school in just the way, like, for me to be coached, like I didn't need to be nitpicked. So, and Berkey doesn't do that. So I didn't need all these like 800 things in my head. And I didn't need to be patted on the back every 3 minutes either, to saying good job. Like, I just didn't need that. And Berkey's not like that. He's kind of got this, it's hard to explain. But he just gives you this confidence without saying anything, because he has confidence in you. He's got your back in the coach's room. He had a great relationship with Tippett and the coaches, but you also knew his voice went a long way in that coach's room. So you knew that if you were doing what he was asking and you were working your butt off and doing everything that he asked, that he was going to have your back in the coach's room. So that kind of that just grows confidence when you know that's there, and you don't have to worry about any of that side of it. Again, it came back to him having watched me play a ton, knew me, I'd met him before. And then as far as the technical side goes, it was super simple for me, and what I think for everybody, if you look at what he did with Mike Smith as well, is it's finding he wanted my feet set, and that became basically the foundation of my entire game, was to have my feet set, beating pucks on my feet and having my feet set on the shots. And that allows you to be a great goalie, to be precise on your saves when your feet are moving. Some guys can do it, but it is difficult to be stopping the puck when you're moving forward or backwards. So it's finding that depth in the crease then. So then every guy is going to be different that way, because it depends on your skating ability, where you can play and get across on your feet and set. If the better skater you are, the further out you can play. And if you're not and then also depending on the play, you need to be further back. So it's finding that depth in the net where you can beat plays on your feet and have your feet set and not be stopping or drifting while the shot's coming. And so every day we just hammered their very basic drills, just different types of passes across, where it was just push, stop, set, shot, push, stop, set, shot, and finding where that depth needed to be in my crease. And for me, I was further out than Smitty was. Mike Smith was so deep, and everybody thinks that Berkey just tells you to play deep. He doesn't. He doesn't tell you where to play. He just says you got to be on your feet and set wherever that happens to be. Now, Smitty was able to play as deep as he does because he had some of the best hands I'd ever seen in my life. He could stand on his goal line and just pick pucks off with his glove and blocker from guys who'd be shooting from inside the top of the circle, and he'd just pick them off. I couldn't do that, so I had to be a little further out. And I don't want to say this, but I think I could skate a little better than Smitty laterally, so that allowed me to be a little further out. So that was our difference. But Smitty was incredible because he found his way back so that he didn't get scrambling around, and then his hands allowed him to be incredible from where he was. So I just kind of found my spot there, and then the confidence grew. And I remember there was one game we went review. I think we beat Washington like 6-3 or something. And I'll never forget, Berkey pulled me in the video and I'm feeling good about a win. And Berkey showed me the video and he's like, this shit's going to stop now. And I was like, oh, okay. And he just showed me like clip after clip. He's like, that's not happening. We're done this now. And it was because I wasn't doing the pushing, stopping. I was drifting everywhere. I was like just moving around and not set for shots. I was sliding into shots, and he was like, he wasn't mad, but he was like dad mad almost. He was just like, this ends
disappointed
now. Yeah, he's like, this ends now. And then that really like clicked for me too. I was like, okay, this is, yeah. And then watching the video, I was like, yeah, it's kind of gross. So then I really kind of bought into it, and we just started hammering it. And then just kind of keeping that in my head, and then getting to play game after game after game. And then the more game situations you see, the more you get to find how that works in a game and where you need to be in a game. Which is probably deeper than you are in practice, because in practice, when guys have all these open shots all the time, you're going to get exposed if you play deep, which as I got later in my career, Bruce didn't like it very much. He told me I was the worst practice goalie he's ever seen, but that's because he actually did. But the first year that Bruce was there, before the season started, it was in training camp. He told me that I was the worst practice goalie he's ever seen. I was like, oh, thanks, Bruce.
Probably still with a smile on his face, though.
Yeah, I was like, I'll just play 68 for you this year. But it's because I refused to play like way out of my crease in practice because I knew that wasn't where I was going to play in a game. And so, I'd be a foot inside my crease in practice, and guys walk in, cut to the middle with their head up staring at me, and they're going to pick me apart because it's not real. Like if that was the shot in a game, I'd be a foot out probably playing a breakaway. And so I refused to do it in practice. So I was the worst practice goalie ever, apparently, but I tried hard. But I didn't have to do that in my first year. So I was just playing games and being able to discover where it was that I needed to be, because I had all these game situations night in, night out, that I really just I built the foundation for my game for the rest of my career in that 2014-15 season.
Hey, Bill, we got time for a couple quick ones, but thanks so much for joining us. You're a student of the game, student of the position. What are your take on the Wild's two goalies now, and Gustavsson and Wallstedt, from watching them play?
Yeah, I mean, it's an exciting time. I think I haven't seen Wallstedt much. I've heard a lot about him. I know he's a big fella like me. But Gustafsson's been just fantastic. I love watching him. One thing I love about him is for a guy he's actually bigger than you think. I remember meeting him in person for the first time after watching him, and I was kind of surprised because he's taller than you think he is. He's not a small guy, but he's so conservative in his movements, and he's just in position. But he moves extremely well, and he's quick, but everything's controlled. And for a guy, again, I think to myself, for a smaller guy, he's super controlled, but he's not that small. But he really doesn't run around. I mean, he's right where he needs to be all the time. And that's a great thing to have when you have a guy that's playing night in, night out, to have his consistency in his movements and where he is positionally every single night is going to make the guys in front of you feel great, because they know exactly what they're getting every game. Even if he's off, if he doesn't have a great game, whatever, some goals go in, it doesn't matter, because the guys know what they're getting every single game. There's not going to be a game where he's randomly running all over the place and off balance and just doesn't have it. He's going to give you the same thing every single night. And that's a guy that you want that can play 50, 60 games a year. And he's been a lot of fun to watch.
Final question, brought to you as always by our good friends at Waggle Golf. First, make sure you head over to getyourwaggleon.com, throw in promo code SP10 to take 10% off your entire order.
Who is your dream golf foursome? Can be celebrity, can be fictional character, family, friends.
Photo Baggins,
Yeah. Anything at the wall.
Oh man, you guys should have prepped me for this beforehand. Tiger Woods for sure. That's an easy one. Honestly, after just watching Happy Gilmore too, I'm going to go with Adam Sandler.
That'd be great.
He seemed like such a normal person. I know everybody's talked about that. Gosh, I got to pick one more. I guess I got to go. I'm trying to think of a music person. Oh man, you guys should have prepped me for this.
It's fun to see the responses when people don't know it's coming. So it's got I was gonna say I loved Roberto Luongo growing up, but I've actually got to golf with him, so that doesn't count. And
it's funny because off the top of the head, sometimes more fun, because if I had time to think about this one, I think I'd overthink it. But right away, I was like, Andre the Giant.
All right, I'm gonna go with an actor. I'll go with Chris Pratt.
Okay.
There you go.
I enjoy him. So he seems like a normal person too, whatever that means. But
it'll be a fun round at least with Sandler, and then obviously Tiger Woods would be the serious one, taking all your money. So a combination of all that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. Looking forward to seeing what's in store with Dubnyk Development, your goaltending consulting business, and looking forward to seeing your boys grow up into the next Wild goalies potentially in the future. So, but thanks so much for joining us. We'll do it again sometime soon.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All right. What a guy. Very, very. It's funny because when he played, you don't like peg him necessarily as a guy that's going to be that kind of personality. And he really has shown it, like with what he's done on like NHL Network panel, some of the stuff he's done with the Wild, whatever. But I don't know. Did you have that sense like when you were watching him as a player that like, oh yeah, this is the kind of personality this guy has?
Well, I think guys who have covered him more than I have will say they love his personality, and goalies are inherently quirky in their own way and weird, quote unquote. But I think he has a combination of the personality, the track record, and the backstory. I think the backstory, he talked about the goalie camps and goalie academy that he has, and talking to the kids about where he was to where he ended up, right? It wasn't a straight line for him. There's elements where he could have quit, and everything like that. Was the Stay Bridge Suites he couldn't talk about or something like that he was in Hamilton, Ontario, and wondering what he was doing and stuff, and found his way back. So I think it's, all this combination of factors. And I watched on TV, and he's pretty honest about stuff. He's not like one of those former players who's want to, be critical or honest about things. He's pretty straight up, and that's what makes him kind of a likable character for that. And hopefully, the players that join the academy and the camp that he runs will benefit from that.
For sure. That is a wrap for this week. I will say, obviously, with the Rossi and Kaprizov and everything on the horizon, you would be pretty bummed if you are not subscribed to The Athletic when that news breaks. I'm sure there will be very thorough breakdown at that point. Joe, anything besides Russo's Olympic coverage while he's out there in Italy, anything people should be watching out for in the coming weeks that you guys are cooking up?
Yeah, and
Russo was out in Connecticut area catching up with Danila Yurov in his workouts there. So he'll have a story. I don't know if it runs this week or when this podcast posts. I'll have some prospect stories in the way, including on Adam Bennick, one of the top, more intriguing draft picks for the Wild this year. And as we get closer, we'll have more kind of burning questions for training camp. And then, of course, whatever happens and whenever it happens, the Rossi and Kirill Kaprizov breakdown. So I know it's kind of like the doldrums, the slow time in early August. A lot of GMs and stuff are at their cabins or their Jersey Shore places, but it'll about to pick up eventually here coming up, and it'll be a month from training camp, which is crazy, Scott. Like, it feels like the season was forever ago, and now we're getting close to it.
This summer has been weird where like July moved so fast, it felt like. And then August, it feels like it's been 2 or 3 months already, and we're halfway through. We are in the doldrums. And again, doing what we can to keep content coming for you guys. There's only so much we can manufacture to talk about news that's not happening, but check out our recent interviews. We had LJ Mooney a couple weeks back. We had Aaron Kiviharu for a brief appearance when he was out for World Junior Summer Showcase. And as Joe mentioned, a couple of legends from the 1980 Olympic team this past week. And coming up next week, the plan right now is to have a couple of sit-downs at the Gopher Alumni Golf outing that they do every summer. We're able to nab a couple of great guys, including repeat now of Paul Martin, but also was able to sit down with Brock Faber there for a little bit. So tune in next week. We'll have that dropping for you. Continue to support the show as you guys have. You guys have all been awesome. If you don't already, subscribe on podcast, audio feed, wherever you get your podcasts, and the SOTA Pod YouTube channel. Otherwise, Joe, I know you're off to enjoy some cottage life here this week. Enjoy, rest up, get ready for hopefully some news to drop next week. Who knows? But you enjoy, man.
Hey, you too. And
we'll have more things to talk about in coming weeks, I promise. But this was at least a fun episode to kick it off and keep people informed and seeing what happens. But all the best to you and yours.
Stay classy, stay hockey.